Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 104 of my modded Factorio playthrough. We can put a signal light here. And we don't know exactly what we're going to need as far as signaling, but this is just kind of a bare minimum sort of thing. But the train station needs a signal, so it means that this train can't leave unless it's got openings and no train can enter. And if we use chain signals, then we can stop a train at the proper spot waiting for this train station to open up. And I haven't really talked about train stackers that much because those are related to this basically. But it's a kind of a complicated idea. I guess I'll go over it real quick just to kind of quickly explain it. Let's get some more tracks. It is kind of relevant. But a stacker is basically a place for trains to park. So without getting too complicated, whenever you have trains, you always want to think, where does that train park? A train always needs somewhere to park. Otherwise, it can get stuck somewhere blocking other trains. So when you have a train station that only gets one train, let's say this train station is only supported by this train, then this train always has somewhere to park because this train station will always be open and ready for it. But what happens if multiple trains use this station? Well, then it's possible that a train's going to get here, but a different train has already used the station. So where does that train park? And that's what you use stackers for, because if it doesn't have a place to park, it just parks on the main line and blocks other trains and just waits. But what a stacker is a set of train stations that are nearby. Now, this isn't the exact spot they would be. Designing a stacker is kind of an interesting thing to do, and since it's going to be fairly unusual, at least at this stage of the factory, I'm not going to make any patterns for it. But basically, you would have all these stations be named the exact same thing. So you'd call them, I don't know, Stacker 1 or something like that. So, and if you include Stacker 1 in a train's orders, then that means that train can go to... Oh, I used all the locomotives there. Can I make another one? Yes. It means that the train can choose from any of these stations. It doesn't matter which. And it would take that. And let's say that this section was connected by rails, and all these were like properly connected. Well, we would have a signal saying, you can't leave the station until this station is open. And then once it becomes open, this train's like, sweet, the space is open, and then it moves down. So that's kind of what a stacker is it's a place for trains to park. Generally while they're waiting to get into a station, but you could design it to where it's just a place for trains to park when they don't have anything to do. But whether you need a stacker or not depends on the logic of your train network and the station, and whether or not that station has more than one train that's using it. So we'll deal with that when it comes up, because it would be overkill to put a stacker on every station when many stations won't need them. And it's just stackers take up even more space than stations do, so it's something you don't want to wastefully take care of. And it looks like it's becoming nighttime, and those lights look like they're pretty good. They support it pretty well, you can see. One other thing, trains need fuel. And how are they going to get it? Now, we could manually come in here and throw a bunch of fuel, and they're going to use it fairly slowly. But eventually they are going to use it. And it'd be kind of annoying to run in there and fuel up the trains. So one way you can take care of this is have every major train station will supply fuel to any train that parks there. Now, you don't have to have every station in your factory supplying fuel, just at least one station on a train's path needs to supply fuel. So basically the big ones. And fuel is fairly straightforward. And this is much more efficient than like sending a train to a fuel stop solely for the purpose of getting fuel. That would be very inefficient. So in this case, let's say we have a belt of fuel coming down, let's say right here, and it goes underneath the train and then on its merry way. And fuel use is fairly slow, because a train's going to be in the station a fairly long time compared to the amount of fuel it's going to need. So a yellow will work. So we'll say pick up and drop and place it right there, and then that's just going to, that yellow insert is just going to pick up fuel that's available and just throw it in the train. And we'll do the same for up above, but also we want to connect this pattern to the next train station, which is going to be immediately right here. So it's kind of hard to imagine, but there's actually going to be 6 belts side by side right here, because the next station is going to be butted right up against it. And since the range of a yellow belt is 4 for underground, we're going to have to do something like that. Which means this has to be an underground right there. And it's just an underground going nowhere, but it will connect with the next station. So it will work fine when the patterns are placed. Oops. So something like that. And let's do the same for up above as well. It's a little easier because there's no undergrounds. Well, no undergrounds for the red belts anyway. Still need to go under the train. Something like that. And the inserter looks like it's closer to the middle. So something like that. And then enough yellow belts. So it looks like the yellow belt has to go to here. So something like that would be a repeatable pattern. Let's see. Station looks pretty complete to me. I'm not seeing anything that's not there. Probably the next step here is to put it to the test. Let's make sure that it works properly. So let's build some loaders. And we need a bunch of stuff. For lack of a better term, a bunch of stuff to throw on the train. Actually, didn't we have a bunch of landfill? Let's go get some landfill. We're going to use this to make sure that the train is actually balanced properly. How are we doing? We're still working on that slag. It's going down slowly. And landfill is going up. Alright, there's our 12 stacks. So basically, let's just assume that the input to these belts, although it may not be 100% compressed, although it very well could be, well, and it won't be in this case, because these are yellow belts, or yellow loaders, but let's just say that we have these 12 stacks of landfill, and let's see. Oh, but it wasn't... I wanted to just drag them in there, but it doesn't work that way because it's landfill. Right, yeah. I have to do this manually, so maybe landfill wasn't the best idea. Oh well. To click it manually. But let's test this. It should be balanced where each car should receive approximately the same amount of resources. So sploosh. And we're only using the first 3 inserters because we're only compressing the belt half of its total. And that's fine. Under normal circumstances, the inserters in the beginning are going to be filling up the chest much faster than the inserters in the back. So these chests in the beginning, once the train is full, the beginning chests are going to have lots of product, where the ones in the back are going to have very little, and that's okay. It's only a buffer. The main thing is the train. As long as there's a train in the station, the actual contents of the chests are relatively unimportant. But let's see what we got here. 200, 200, 200. Everything's good. So assuming that the belts are balanced before they get to the station, they will be loaded in a balanced sort of way. So we have our balanced train station here. So let's make a blueprint. Select the whole thing. Don't include that power pole. Although, now that I think about it, it would be nice to make sure that each station shares power with each other, because I don't think that the power is going to reach right now. If we do something like this, it'll probably work okay. That will share the power. Should, anyway. Alright. Select everything. Get rid of that power pole. Looking good. 144 inserters. So, let's choose an icon for the train station. Train stop. And let's say this is a loading station. So let's say L. But we want to differentiate between the liquid stations and the regular ones, so let's go in there and let's just do a wooden chest and say this is for loading stuff. And now we have our pattern where, see if we place it here, the belts connect, the power poles connect, and everything's good. And also the spacing is right. You see how that it goes by groups of 2 spaces, so that also means that that fits properly. We need to design the liquid station, but before that, it's kind of relevant that we deal with splitters and talk about splitters. But instead of having you watch me build all these splitters one at a time and make patterns for them, let me just import the balancers in. Okay, we'll just go to blueprint here. You see I have my book of balancers. So we can just pick that up and place that in our inventory, and whoo boy, that's a lot less work. I don't have to make all those by hand because I already did. So what does my book of balancers have? Well, this isn't all balancers, but rather balancers related to a 6-belted train station. So the way this works is that the first number is the number of belts going into the balancer, and the second number is the number of belts going out of it. So this is a 1 to 6, 2 to 6, 3 to 6, 4 to 6, 5 to 6, and this is just a 6 to 6 balancer, because that might happen. Like a train station can support up to 6 belts, so it might be getting 6, and then this is 6 to 5, 6 to 4, 6 to 3, 6 to 2, and 6 to 1. That's relevant for a unloading station, so a station will always unload with 6 belts, but we might not need 6 belts worth of product. And why these balancers are important will be relevant a little later. But, so you see, we have our 1 to 6, the 2 to 6, 3 to 6, 4 to 6, 5 to 6. You see also the more belts are involved, the bigger the balancer becomes, so that's why you don't want to go too crazy. And there is the 6 to 6. And then 6 to 5. Looks like it, you kind of have to look at it, see which direction it's going. Like some of these, like these are all pointing up, and then this one started pointing down. So we can rotate it. So that's 6 to 5. 6 to 4. 6 to 3. 6 to 2. And there's our 6 to 1. So, yeah. And it's not really important whether they're pointing up or down. They just remember the last position they were at. So, I want to try to fully utilize this train station, or at least these belts. So, let's clear some of this space out. So basically every train station besides the train station will also have to have its associated balancer based on whatever the input is. So let's say the input for this is, let's say 3 belts. So the input is 3 and the output is 6. So we need to go to our 3 to 6, which is this one right here. You see if we place this right here, we might not have the correct supplies. Let's drop them in there. There we go, now we have 3 inputs turn into 6. And let's fully utilize these. Just doing it a little weird here, but just for the purpose of testing. Because I always like to test. And I know I just picked up all that landfill, but I want something I could more easily just drag and drop in there, so let's get some stone bricks. And I already tested these balancers to make sure that they worked. I was considering whether or not to do a video showing me make all those, but I just determined it'd be a little too boring. Because once you've seen one balancer, you know how they all work. You just have to look up someone's design, and I think I got those just from the Factorio Wikipedia. But let's try this now. We already tested the train station with 6 balanced belts, so let's test the balancer itself now. So let's say we have 3 full red belts. Will this be split properly? Because if it doesn't, the train station will only load in its most efficient, in its fastest way, in its most efficient way, if it's getting balanced belts. Even if the belts aren't full, that's fine. And even if only the first couple of inserters are actually doing any work at the station, that's fine. It's just each car, each train car needs to be loaded at an equal rate. If it's not, then you're going to have slightly full cars and the train is just going to wait for that last car to fill up, which depending could take a long time. We want to minimize under all circumstances and at all costs how long the train spends in the train station, because that will improve the efficiency of the train and the station itself. It means that maybe when we needed 2 trains, we only need 1 because it's being used very efficiently. Ugh. I made the same mistake, didn't I? Where it's a brick. I did. I'm an idiot. Okay, something that can be drag and dropped that doesn't make a path. We do have a lot of random plastic. So, there we go. Let me double check. Can you make a plastic path? Oh, you can't? Oh, okay. This'll work. So we have our 12 stacks of plastic bars, and let's drag them in here. Boom. So we have our full belt, and then this balancer kind of splits things up evenly. The belts don't look exactly the same, but the quantity is the same, and that's the important thing. And you see how it takes longer for the plastic to get up there, but you see how every car is loading at an equal rate, about 3 inserters worth, which is what we want to see. And eventually that last little piece works its way around the balancer. Slowly makes it there. There we go. So we have 199, 199, 199, 199, 202, and 202. That's fine, because you're not going to get exactly perfect numbers depending on exactly how the balancer sent the first few pieces, but that's very close. That's basically exact. Good enough for me. And the train is holding its 1.2K. So that's kind of how balancers work and how the train works. So this train station is good, and that particular balancer is good, but all the other ones will be good too. So might as well pick all that up. I believe we already made our pattern. We did. So the other side of this is an unloading station. And it's a little different. In part because I'm running on an older version where the belt compression is a little wonky. So essentially all these need to change directions. Instead of going up, they need to go down. And we also want to do it in as small and a compact as space as possible. So how can we do that? Well, it's kind of the same idea where two yellow belts can combine into a red belt right here, and then that red belt can leave. And because this is the earlier Factorio version, we need to use undergrounds to get full belt compression. The number of undergrounds kind of depends. My experience, at least with blues, is that you need the last two, basically, to get full compression, to have an underground. So if we had a red, we would have a total of 12 blue inserters, and the last 4 would be needed to get full compression. But in this case, we just need these 2. So something like that, and then it would work. So now it's just a question of fixing all these. There's probably a way to do it by patterns, but I think I'll just do it by hand just to make sure it gets done properly. You see the belts do change position slightly. Okay. Certainly looks good for that side. Let's fix the other side. We need some red belts, but there should just be a bunch left over in here. Let's just pick all that up. Alright, last bit of undergrounds. So there we go. Oh, and of course, we have to rotate the inserters to go the other direction. That actually is important, now that I think about it. So it might be easier just to drop these things pointing the other way, rather than rotate them manually. We're going to leave the chests as they are, with the 4 spaces open, so the train station will hold 1 train's worth of product, so when a train gets there, it'll spend the minimum amount of time. And now we need to use near inserters to make sure this belt gets maximized. Oh, it looks like I didn't put some undergrounds there, so sadness, I didn't quite have enough. So the easy way, I think, is just to place all these the correct direction first, and then manually do all of the nears. Say the one on the top. Okay. Looking good. I believe it's time to test this. And let's use our balancer. Let's use our 6 to 3. There we go. Let's place that in there. Let's see, and we're gonna have to do some cleverness here again. There we go. There's our chest. So now let's check to see if this is balanced. It should be pretty balanced in all accounts. So let's put our 12 stacks of plastic bars in here, and it should unload evenly into these 6 chests. See if I can do this properly. There we go. I can tell it's moving efficiently because all the inserters are moving evenly. And then the train is empty. And that's normal because it's taking 6 belts into 3, so there's going to be some backup. Then the last few pieces take a while to spin through the circles. And you see there's some plastic gets stuck in the splitters, and that's normal. So we're not going to be exact numbers, but they should be close. So 198, 198, 198, 197, 199, 198. That is balanced. So let's pick all that up again. So now we have a balanced train station for unloading. And let's make another pattern. Don't need that. Let's switch this to chest. And let's give it a U for unload. Okay, let's go to our blueprint book. We have our straight section and our straight bridge. Roundabout section with a roundabout bridge. And now the train load station and train unload station. Next we need to design a liquid train station, and that'll be the next episode, so I'll see you then.